Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Today we continue a series which we've been on for multiple years at this point. The supposed most powerful, most popular, most influential people. All of these left-wing celebrity politicians, the people on all the magazines, the people the media tells you are leading us into a progressive future, are the same people who literally can't go anywhere without getting booed into oblivion. It's unbelievable. It's an unbroken trend, every single one of them. From Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to Ilhan Omar to Joe Biden to Jill Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and of course probably the least popular, the most mocked, the most hated of all left-wing globalist politicians, Mr. Justin Trudeau himself. Yep, Justin Trudeau and French President Emmanuel Macron were supposed to be the young progressives leading us into the new world. Boy, did that age well. Remember when Justin Trudeau went to the EU to give a speech and almost nobody showed up? Influential Canadian Prime Minister shows up to the EU to an empty audience only to get absolutely blasted by based Eastern European Parliament members immediately afterwards. It's nothing but humiliation after humiliation, and this time it's one of the most humiliating moments for Justin Trudeau, I'd argue, ever, as he shows up to a political rally at the North American Indigenous Games and gets, well, you guessed it, booed into oblivion off stage in a painfully embarrassing moment for the Canadian Prime Minister. It's getting bad for these leftist globalist folks. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright friends, so Justin Trudeau supposedly is this woke progressive that's so deeply cherished and loved, and especially by minority communities. Supposedly he's a woke progressive that the Indigenous community adores. Well, not exactly. Everywhere this guy goes, it's the same thing. He's heckled, he's yelled at, he's called names, but of course this shameless sociopath, it never seems to really affect him. All he does is act in his typical condescending manner, his typical cringe false confidence. But I don't know, ignore it at your own peril. I think something is building up. You can only rule the political day for so long, until the pendulum shifts. And I think we're slowly moving away from the woke, moving away from the left globalist new order. And what you watched is a sign of what's to come. People are sick of this guy. They're sick of Justin Trudeau because of what he represents. He's the face of woke. Arguably the most woke world leader in human history. I don't think that's an exaggeration. I think it's quite accurate. It's pretty much his entire identity. Just do 5 seconds of research into the guy, and you'll pretty much get the picture. You know, a lot of these ideas, and of course the politicians that represented them, for a short period of time, were undeniably popular. Well, now this is the current state. You know, it's an issue of priority. The last 10 or so years with all the money printing, the low interest rate environment, it was a 10-year-long bull run. Unprecedented economic times, of course, as we know, prosperous times tend to produce weak men, weakness in general. Now all of a sudden, as the going gets tough, people are waking up that maybe the number one focus and priority in culture and politics shouldn't be things that make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside and genuflecting to particular organizations and causes to make you feel good about yourself. Of course, the concept known as virtue signaling. Maybe our politics should have substance. Maybe we should be focused on important things and policies that create stability, and especially economic stability. You know, I think people are waking up to this concept of the woke utopia. You hear American leftists all the time pointing to places like Canada as being some sort of leftist haven. Like I just mentioned, the typical woke utopia, but of course that couldn't be further from the truth, now could it? If Canada is such a great place, the simple question you have to ask your typical American leftoid is, why haven't you moved there? If everything is free in Canada, why don't you go? Well, that's simply because it's not free. It's paid for by your taxes. You get taxed into the ground, even when you aren't earning that much. Median wages are significantly lower in Canada than they are in the United States, and the services that you're paying for through your tax dollars aren't exactly the highest of quality, now are they? I mean, in the world of healthcare, most of the highly qualified doctors in Canada end up leaving to make more money in America. You pay and pay and pay and get very little in return. I mean, for Pete's sakes, all we kept hearing throughout the entire pandemic was how the Canadian healthcare system couldn't cope. One crisis crisis, the whole system crumbled, yet it's supposed to be the exemplary system that's the best in the world. Give me a break. And that's not even going into cost of living. Nearly everything is more expensive because government is involved in everything. A parasitic entity. There's literally something referred to as the dairy mafia, socialist-style protectionist policies that make dairy products more expensive for Canadians. Canadian milk price is 29% higher than in the United States. But that's only one product. It's also the same thing with gas prices, consumption taxes or gas taxes, and the downstream effect of that is making everything more expensive. Then of course let's get into the most important metric when it comes to the cost of living, the cost of housing. Here's the current leader of the Conservative Party in Canada, really putting it all into perspective.
You look at the housing on the Canadian side of Niagara Falls versus the American side, very interesting. On the Canadian side, 3047 St. Patrick Avenue, you can get a tiny shack for $549,900. On the American side, you get a much bigger standalone home for $164,000. Wow. $549 on the Canadian side, $164 on the American side, both Niagara Falls. Why the discrepancy, Housing Minister?
He spouts about numbers, he talks about housing affordability. When it comes to housing supply, he's voted against measures to increase housing supply. When it comes to housing affordability and measures to help home buyers, he's voted against them.
So we've established that on the American side, house prices are roughly half of what they are on the Canadian side. I've asked why multiple times. It can't be population. They have 10 times the people. It can't be land mass. They have less land than we do. The answer is that government gatekeepers block construction. He claims that he's doing something about that, but he has been in this role, and his prime minister has been in this job for 8 years. If they were going to solve the problem, they would have by now, but everything is worse.
And the argument from leftoids here is, well, the Canadian side is a more sought-after real estate market and it's a better environment than the US, still doesn't justify the difference in prices or the extreme difference in prices. Taxes upon taxes upon taxes upon regulations, the worst kept secret is out. Canada's housing market is the most undersupplied in the G7. You heard Justin Trudeau's lackey in Parliament in that earlier clip sounds exactly like your typical Democrat. Whenever challenged on any issues, well, you voted against our bill that would have solved the problem. If you would have solved the problem, if you wanted to solve the problem, you would have done it already. But instead they play these ridiculous games as if it's always the Conservatives who are getting in the way and not signing their legislation. Their solution to a housing crisis is more government involvement, more government regulation and spending proposals. Those exact proposals, the regulations on a federal level, on a state or provincial level, all the way down to individual cities and towns, in every left-wing city, district, town, country, whatever you want to call it, you see nothing but red tape, government involvement, overly burdensome taxes, just like in California that makes it impossible to build, leading to an undersupply in housing, creating a home affordability crisis. I think people are starting to wake up that, hey, maybe something's going on here. Maybe these leftoids are trying to distract us with all of this woke nonsense as they continue to shaft us. And of course, like always, the biggest eye-opener, it's the economy, stupid. The moment the economic going gets a little bit rough is when eyes start to open. Hopefully people are starting to wake up. Hopefully it's the start of a slow downward demise of the globalist left-wing regime, making us poorer and more reliant. I'm going to play the same clip I always play.
I think you all know that I've always felt the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
Wake up and smell the coffee. Justin Trudeau is not your friend. He's not your savior. He's a woke disaster. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. You know that we'd love to have you here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.